Today, I am excited to speak with the man and wife team, Jodie and Matt Ward, aka the Sassenachs. They're specialists in adventure elopement style weddings throughout Scotland, a country that is the second most searched for destination for wedding elopements globally and which boasts some of the best scenery in the world. They tell me that Scotland is a mecca for couples who wish to elope, and that is in fact the only country in the UK where you can marry anywhere. So they are often shooting in the most remote and rural locations, capturing dramatic, cinematic style pictures for their wedding clients. They have over a decade of experience crafting bespoke elopements and have also recently introduced an elopement planning service. So Matt and Jodie, welcome to you both, and thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So can we start at the beginning? I know you guys have got more than a decade of experience, but yeah, what were you doing previously and how did you get started in this?
Well, we met in an office. We worked in an insurance firm, proper Jim and Pam sort of moment. We had our first child 11 years ago now.
Yeah.
Jodie went off on maternity leave, didn't want to go back. It was around the same time that we bought our first DSLR cameras, and you start, doing little things with people and their pets. And
you've been dabbling in landscapes.
Yeah. Did a few weddings, when you just kind of do your first one or two for free. Not having a clue what you're doing. And just
finding your feet, I think, just working it all out.
is a phrase. And then, from that, I suppose we've been full-time 10 years. During that time, we kind of swung around a little bit. We've done everything from weddings. We've also done landscape photography tours and workshops, which was probably my main bread and butter for quite a long time.
Babies.
Yeah, then you sort of did some portrait work and did some commercial stuff. And then we thought we'd put the landscape and the portrait and the wedding thing all together and kind of get into the elopement business. And that's where we're at now.
Amazing. So it was almost like an organic process, really, of trying lots of different things, which I think is pretty common, actually. So was there anybody doing that, the elopement style that you're doing, that inspired you, or was it not a thing? I mean, when, those years ago.
There are a couple of big names, one especially that really inspired us, which are the Pharaohs. They're Italian photographers, and they've done a few.
Yeah, Italian Scottish backdrops.
And they were biggest
inspiration. Yeah. And then a couple of other names like the Kitcheners and the Carrolls, who have been pretty solid for quite a few years as well. I suppose it's just looking at them. I will say that we never felt like we fitted into that mold in the same way as these guys did. I looked at all of these guys as being like uber cool, like the coolest people, proper trendy arty types. And I don't think we put ourselves in that box. So it was kind of a question of us finding our own way in the elopement side of things. And I think we made a little bit more conscious effort to be very landscape based, not so much
with your background in that genre, that would make sense.
Years myself traveling all around Scotland, finding all these places that obviously some are well known and some not so much, and just learning the environment that you're in, times of year to shoot, places to go, places not to go, times of year not to go, and all of those really important.
Because I think I'm right to say there's certain places you won't shoot at certain times of the year because there's midges and different challenges of those locations. Can you talk to us around that and how that's just through experience, I presume, that you established that knowledge?
Experience of both working and living here. So we actually live in Glencoe. We know from just experience of letting the dogs out to go for a wee that the midges are hell on earth for a couple of hours each day at certain times of year. And so, for instance, we wouldn't tend to work in the West Highlands between months of late July and mid-September. We do make slight exceptions for various reasons, but we are pretty firm on that we don't do that. And
I react to the midge bites quite badly as well, so it's miserable for me.
So practical reasons. But I think what comes across strongly from your marketing and your website is that you're creating bespoke experiences. You want to create something completely magical for the client. But obviously, yeah, midges and things are just not going to be part of that magical experience, are they? So it's really great that you say very clearly that you'll only do certain locations on certain dates.
It's the same with tourists as well, you know, and this wonderful thing that lockdown gave us in so much as we all started exploring our country, whether it's Scotland or the wider UK or whatever. There's certain places that have just swelled beyond what it feels like they're capable of taking. The Isle of Skye's one.
Yeah.
So, for instance, we're not taking any bookings pretty much on the Isle of Skye outside of kind of November to February because we feel that it's just too busy. Again, there's certain caveats to that. We would do very small sections of the island outside of those times, but the main points that people want to go to, like Hurang or Fairy Glen, Fairy Pools or whatever, we absolutely wouldn't touch anywhere from March to October. It's just too busy, and it doesn't give the couples the experience that I think they think they're going to get, especially if they've not been here before.
And yeah, talk to us about your ideal clients, because you've touched on your clients, and I'd be interested to hear how you would define them, like who are they and has that evolved? I know they're certainly traveling to Scotland in many cases, perhaps even for the very first time. They're perhaps from Europe or even much further afield. So yeah, could you tell us a bit about that and how you've, in your marketing and in your business practices, refined that in terms of positioning your business to them and how that works?
I mean, they tend to come from the US is the main portion of our clients. Canada and Australia are probably like the next two countries on the list. And to find is there'll be people with a link to Scotland.
Yeah.
Usually that comes from kind of family heritage, you know, maybe their families left during their clearances in the 18th century or whatever it's going to be.
Or they just love Outlander.
That's the other one. Outlander, Braveheart, Harry Potter. Those three are huge draws.
That whole kind of vibe. Yeah.
You know, they've seen that, and that's basically been their introduction into Scotland. So you get a lot of people say, hey, we want to go here. We want an Outlander style wedding. We've seen this in Braveheart. Can we have our ceremony there, or whatever it might be? So they would tend to be our clients. They tend to be, I don't know, more modern thinking. You know, these are people who are doing away from the traditional wedding. They don't want all the bells and whistles and the £30,000 on a big white wedding with a cake and a first dance and speeches and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's possibly the joy of Instagram, is that now people are seeing how much money is being spent on these big lavish weddings, and they'd rather spend that money on an intimate wedding and enjoy a honeymoon at the same time for a fraction of the cost. It's pushing more over to the elopements, in our opinion.
Yes, it's growing really quite well, isn't it, as an industry?
It's what a marriage is about. It's about the couple coming together and declaring their love for each other, and anything else outside of that is a bonus. Absolutely. And we just think that it's a magical moment to have together.
And it's funny because we've had people, when we used to do big weddings, literally tell us of their regret of their big wedding on their wedding day.
I mean, you guys are married and you didn't do an elopement, did you? So this is almost part of the story, isn't it? I think you're right to say that you we did the whole big white wedding thing. Maybe wouldn't do it now. Is that true?
I'm going to throw Jodie under the bus here. I wanted to elope, and Jodie didn't want to elope.
Well, I did, but I just didn't want to upset my family, and I still upset family because we couldn't afford at the time to invite everyone, and I chose some friends over family, and now I don't even speak to those friends because I no longer work with them. So it is a regret. I'm not marrying him, obviously, but
the format,
the big wedding. I wish we'd have done a smaller, intimate adventure. Because those memories would have been so much nicer than the ones we currently have. But the only bonus I've got is that my granddad was able to be there. He unfortunately passed away from cancer weeks afterwards. His main goal was to make it to our wedding, and he did.
But I think this is what part of the reason that makes us so passionate about what we do. Is the fact
that's what I was going to say as well. Like, that's lends to the story, doesn't it, within the business and the storytelling element that you can share with clients.
Absolutely. And when we did do the big weddings, as I said, you could almost see like the stress and the heartache people were experiencing, going through a process that they maybe weren't totally invested in, that they were doing things because, their mum or dad or aunt or whatever it was wanted them, or wider society pressures expected them to do certain things. And I think because we felt those same pressures and expectations, I think you get really caught up in it, and it's nice to see when people elope. And one of the big things that we hear from our clients is, we'll do the video calls and stuff with them 4 weeks before, and so many people say it feels like we should be doing more. There's nothing for us to plan.
And that's a nice segue actually towards the planning service that you now offer, because that's a relatively new offer. But tell us about that, and obviously why did you do it initially? I guess it may have been because clients were asking for it, or you decided there was a market for that aspect as well. But how is that working out for you?
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? We've done about a dozen or so since we launched just before Christmas last year.
So we're keeping it small at the moment, purely for our own sanity.
A lot involved. We work with our friend Joe, who's much more organised than we are. Hence the reason we chose to work with Joe. That, and she's lovely. So yeah, people were asking for it. So we would jump on these calls with people, and they would basically be lost. They've never been to Scotland. They didn't have a clue what they were doing. We would often say, right, we recommend this humanist, this hair and makeup person, and this place for flowers or something like that, and then leave them to get on their way. And I think it was a conversation you had with one of our brides about time differences, and like them struggling to get hold of certain people because of time differences from the other side of the world. So we thought, well, if we just reduced all those points of contact for our clients, we just did it ourselves, and we've got the network, we've got the experience, we've got the knowledge of Scotland, not just from a elopement point of view, but we actually do the whole thing. We do their whole trip here. So just had a couple come over from California last month, and they did 11-12 days here, and we planned from the moment they landed to the moment they took off.
Amazing.
Absolutely everything for them. We write out itineraries, we book accommodation. The beauty of that is that we're in control of what their photos are going to look like. So their prep shots for their wedding day, if we choose their hotel, we know that the hotel is going to be suitable and lends itself to beautiful photos. So it's quite some ways it's handier for us as well. I'm not going to lie, to have that little bit of extra control, but I think it just takes away the pressure. And the absolutely insane thing is a 10, 12, 14 day trip over here from the States is still going to be about half the cost max of that big white traditional
wedding. Wow. So how have you marketed that particularly, or even just the business in general? I mean, in terms of just your marketing specifically, what are you doing day to day to get yourselves out there? Or has your business and your name become so well known that you're getting inquiries organically? I mean, how well is your website working for you? Can you tell us a bit more about the marketing side of things?
I suppose I'll answer that because that's my side of the business. So our marketing works in a couple of ways. So we don't really do social media. We're very erratic when it comes to social media. Like, I'll have a moment where I go, let's just go and put 10 posts up in one go and basically schedule them all, and then that'll be it for our social media for 3 months, and we won't touch it again.
If I do it, I get distracted by cat videos.
So yeah, we're not big on social media. I don't know how many followers we got on Instagram, but 1,500 or so. I know it's nothing really in the grand scheme of things. Everything that we do is through Google. We do SEO work, and we are quite heavily invested within the SEO side of things. We rank reasonably well across about 50 or 60 search terms, which is pretty handy. And then we run Google ads. And I was actually looking yesterday, Google ads conversion cost is about £30, which is really quite cheap for our industry. So that's nice to have as well. I'll be honest, most of what we do is centered around our website. Our website is the thing that we just hope will convert people into sort of people who are browsing through to people who book. And then something that you actually, when we were working with you, Zoe, got us to do was the mailing list.
Yes, we should say we worked together for a time. So yes, I did get you started on mailing list, email marketing, which is
that's right.
And yes, I very much agree that that's a really important facet in terms of being able to reach your ideal clients, people who've been stalking your website and interested enough to sign up. So yes, well done. So you're continuing with that.
Yeah, we get about 15 to 20% of our inquiries come through our mailing list. So it's actually quite high.
Positive feedback, haven't they, on how helpful it's been, and that it was the mailing list that made them decide to contact us?
So we do the mailing list via, you download a guide to eloping in Scotland. It changes every so often.
You've got like a lead magnet essentially to hook them in the first place.
And they have like an onboarding campaign, which I think is, depending on what country they're in, is between 7 and 10 emails long, talking about elopements and then talking about us towards the end of that campaign.
Yep.
And then they join our mailing list. And the mailing list, I wouldn't say we're great at. We probably send out an email twice every 5 weeks, I would say. Sometimes I do it 1 week and then the next week and then leave it for a month because I feel like I've got nothing to say, or I just forget about it. But it genuinely does work, and that's the thing that I think is great. Takeaway: if you can get people onto your website, and then from that website get people to either be invested in you enough straight away to contact you there and then, which is pretty rare, if I'm totally honest.
Yeah, hence the need for such a guide to hook them in, isn't it? And indeed your social media channels to sort of, if they're going to do nothing else, just follow you. Yeah.
It's just tiny little things as well. Like when we first started doing the mailing list, and you write who your email's from, and I used to just put the Sassenachs, and then I thought, do you know what, we should probably change that, and now it's the Sassenachs elopement photography. So even if they don't open their email, they're associating our brand name with eloping. So hopefully, you know, that they don't open it, but they see it, and then when they're ready to take that next step to actually book an elopement photographer, oh, I remember we were chatting to them, or we looked on their website. So it's just kind of like a little wave at them every so often, just to kind of hopefully stay within their memory.
Yeah. And I love that though, actually. I mean, what you said about social media, the fact that you're not on there all the time. I love the fact that you found your groove, and you know, you're doing it in a way that suits you. And ultimately it's your business, and you can do it. If you needed more clients, if you needed to fill that diary, of course you'd perhaps be doing more. But I think I'm right to say that you're fully booked for a long time in advance, aren't you, as it stands now? And you're confident in your ability to attract those clients at the right time, and marketing supplements what you're doing, but you're not in a panic state and needing to sound desperate, and hence lots of emails and things, which I think is a very admirable situation to be in, actually.
We're quite fortunate in that sense that the social media that we do use, it's just another place to have our portfolio, really, to find inspiration as well. But then I just get distracted with cats and dogs. So.
And you've got your own dog, haven't you?
Yeah, we've got 2 dogs.
We have, yeah.
So we sent them out because they would be involved in this conversation.
So that's really interesting how you're incorporating the Google ads, you're doing the SEO work, so very much making your website the hub of what you're doing, which is very much a strategy I recommend. That is really your online home, isn't it? Your shop front. And I think what you guys do really well is the copy is really compelling, really pulls people in, and really tells that story about how this is so different to anything else that people might have considered in regards to wedding planning. So I think you've done a cracking job there. And the guide and the nurture sequence and all of that, it just sounds like you've got it all in place. Well done.
Thank you.
So what would percentage of time typically in a week would you sort of spend on marketing? Are you doing something every day, or is the funnel with the Google ads and everything set up and just automating working in the background for you?
What we tend to do, because Jodie edits pretty much all the photos, you know, you probably do 8 out of 10 weddings, don't you? My time is spent either doing the other ones, the wedding videos that we also offer, or the marketing. So I wouldn't say I do it every day, but we do quite a lot every week. We used to do quite a lot of blog posts, but we tend to do those more in the winter when we've got a little bit more time. I update my website copy every week, even if it's just tweaks. And actually we changed our pricing page last week, and we had 5 inquiries across 2.5 days after that change. So, you know, it's like, right, that must work. You know, it's nice to see that. I'm quite a firm believer in keep updating things and keeping things fresh. If it doesn't work, we can always go back to it. But there's something somewhere that triggers people to either take that action or not. And it's things like having Hotjar installed on your website so you can actually track what people are doing. And I think that might have been another thing that you kind of have led us towards.
Fascinating, that, isn't it? And you see where people are navigating to, and where they get stuck.
And I think it was actually when I was looking at website recordings, I noticed how blocky our text was, and I thought, oh, that's quite text heavy, you know, just paragraph after paragraph. And then we saw another website that used a lot of icons, lots of ticks and crosses and bullet points in paragraphs. So I think we'll do that. You now sort of see that people are able to flick up through your website a lot quicker and just take in the bullet points that they need, as opposed to thinking, right, okay, they're definitely going to read a 1,000-word essay on why they need to book us, because the reality is they're not.
Yeah, absolutely. So subheadings, bold, like you say, short paragraphs, little icons, bullet
Different
points, all
fonts,
of these things. It just makes it so much easier to read, doesn't it?
And I didn't realize, genuinely, like, you'd see your website all the time, but I didn't realize until I watched other people going through our website.
I think you're so close to it, aren't you, when it's your own business, your own website. And yes, gosh, how other people navigate it is very different to how perhaps we would, because we know where everything is. And yeah, no, fascinating exercise. And that's a really good tip, actually, for anyone listening, to do that on their website if they haven't done already.
And if they dare, and they have ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT to roast your website.
Interesting tip.
It was
really bummed Matt out.
It was painful.
Oh no.
Truly, but
it did help us, didn't it?
In terms of just refining the copy, what you're saying, or content style, what was it?
I think you get caught up in trying to make it look arty.
Yeah.
And everything was like, let's have the best adventure of your life and all this stuff. And it was so unclear as to what we were actually talking about. So now it's all like, it would be something more like, have your dream wedding day. You know, it's so much more concise and so much more clear and to the point, as opposed to this flowery, arty text. And I think that probably came from our own, I suppose, insecurities and trying to be like other people within the elopement industry, that they say adventure, they say this, they say that, and you would try and find your own way around it. And what's happening is they were maybe like one step away from saying a wedding, but then because you were almost copying their copy, you'd then be 2 steps away because you didn't want to use the same wording and stuff like that. So you know, it bummed us out a little bit, you know. And it's little things like, click here to make it happen. Why put stuff like that? Just put contact us, you know what I mean? Just an actual call to action. Absolutely fine. And ChatGPT was pretty good at that, because it doesn't care about your feelings, whereas ChatGPT was just like taking no prisoners.
Brutal.
So.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing, obviously, refining it for the better. So yeah, another great tip there. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I mean, there's so many ways you can be using AI, but if it can be helping you refine and improve, then all the better. Definitely wouldn't just advocate copying and pasting and all of that. Finding a tone of voice and that original angle and everything that makes you different is so important. But yeah, sounds like you use it in a positive way, and what a great tool it is, you know, in terms of a year or two ago, we didn't really have anything like it at all. So it's definitely exciting times, isn't it, with regards to that? Okay, cool. Well, you've shared so much. Thank you. Is there anything you're working on at the moment? Anything new? Anything you wanted to mention before we wrap up?
No, I don't think so, really. You know, we're just sort of keeping things going, trying to refine. I think that the biggest thing for us is we keep trying to niche down. We keep trying to be as tight as possible into what we were doing. It starts off that you do everything, and then you just do some things, and then you just do a few things, and then it's down to one thing, and then you want to do that one thing really, really well. And I think that's the kind of bottom. It's like thinking it like a funnel, isn't it? We're trying to be as close to the bottom of that funnel as possible. So for us, it's just continually trying to evolve, and then hopefully we'll be able to start passing this information on to other people through like mentoring and that sort of stuff.
Yes, you have some exciting plans in regards to that, don't you? So
we're just kind of going through at the moment whether or not we're going to do it in-person groups or one-to-one, the whole online course thing, which is what we were thinking of, because we've done the online courses over the last 10 years. And the majority of them are not that helpful because they're so generic.
So you could add something new to the market. Exciting times. Well, good luck with that. And of course, with all the weddings that you've got in the pipeline, am I right to say you're booked well into next year and even beyond, perhaps? Are you getting when you're getting inquiries for these days?
Inquiry for 2026. We've got one in for 2027. Yeah, so inquiries for 2026 onwards. We tend the market tends to book 3 to 9 months in advance, but we will book out autumn 12 months in advance, because we are big fans of autumn, and we kind of tell everyone this is when you need to book. So we have a bit of a premium on that, and then we just fill out those months around it afterwards. So it's a nice position to be in.
It is.
Well, well done with everything you've achieved so far, and good luck with everything going forward. So thank you so much for everything you've shared. You, as I say, you've been really generous, and if anyone wants to check out their work, do, because it's an absolute visual treat. I'll include the link in the description below. But both of you, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been great to have you on here.
Thank you so much for asking.